Hello, welcome to episode number 102 of CXO-Talk. You know, data, analytics, machine learning, these are hot topics. And today, we're going to be talking with somebody who is truly a leading expert at applying these concepts to the real world to travel. I'm Michael Krigsman, and I'm here with my co-host, Vala Afshar. Hey, Vala, how are you?
Michael, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am excellent. So we're here with Giorgos Zacharia, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Kayak. Giorgos, how are you?
Very well. Great to be here.
And I think everybody knows about Kayak. It's one of the world's top travel sites. So Giorgos, please tell us about your background and your professional history.
So I came to the US in '93 to study at MIT. Ended up doing 4 degrees there, including a PhD in computer science. But I've spent most of my professional life in startups. I started 4 of them and then joined Kayak at some point. And both my academic and professional experience has always had to do with using machine learning to produce valuable information and services and recommendations for end users. And Kayak is a prime example of learning from data to build a better user experience.
Well, most of our previous guests only have 1 or 2 degrees from prestigious universities, so that's pretty awesome. That's fantastic. And as Michael mentioned, many of us know about Kayak, but could you talk a little bit about Kayak and the company, and then specifically your role as the Chief Technology Officer at Kayak? What does that mean? What does a typical day for you look like?
Yeah, so Kayak's objective is to build the best app for the user to search, find the travel product that they're looking for, and then manage that travel even after the booking experience. My role as CTO at Kayak is I own technology and product strategy. I spend most of my day working with the product people and the mobile team and the UI development team, studying the experiments we're about to launch or have launched, monitoring the performance, and brainstorming what we should do next. How should we improve the user experience next?
So you mentioned the term machine learning, and that plays an important role in your work and the data science at Kayak. But I wonder, and it's a very kind of trendy term these days, but I wonder how many people know what it actually means. So Giorgos, would you give us a little bit of background on machine learning and what does it mean specifically at Kayak?
Yeah, so the name of the term comes from the machine, the computer basically, learning patterns from data. The way I like to describe it is basically computational statistics. You can have a statistician build a hypothesis and test it one at a time, or you can have a computer test millions of hypotheses in very, very little time and tell you which pattern has the most predictive value. Practical applications is learning how to better query our partners to find the most competitive flight prices, or how to better personalize the sort order when we present hotels to our users. Learn from their preferences and show them the hotels they are most likely to book higher than 3-4 pages after the first page of results.
Sure. So, I mean, in your view, what is Kayak selling? Are you selling data? Are you selling information, user experience, something else, or maybe a combination of all of that?
So we actually don't sell anything. So we aggregate the information and we try to present it in the most usable way. So user experience trumps almost every decision we make at Kayak. So we're trying to show our users the most comprehensive results possible for their travel search query and in the most usable way, whether that's a mobile device or desktop.
So you're aggregating this data, and behind the scenes, you're undertaking various, as you said, computational statistics in order to find relationships with this data.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not actually selling anything. So why does the user care?
Well, the role of Kayak is to we see our mission to actually produce the most comprehensive and accurate data. If we don't, we use credibility, the user will not come back. We also want to present these results as fast as possible. For example, it makes no sense to have a very complex algorithm surfacing 4-stop results that might be saving the user a couple of dollars when we know we can get the traveler there with a direct flight. So these optimizations matter because you don't want to make the user wait unnecessarily for a result that they will never book. On the hotel side, we don't want to be querying our partners for every single query and make the user wait for 30, 40 seconds, depending on the slowest system we actually have to query. So we have a predictive caching mechanism that anticipates what our users are likely to search every day, and we preemptively query all our partners, gather their data locally, and serve those results as fast as possible from our own cache.
Can you give us a sense of, or maybe a non-technical overview of how the data flows from suppliers through your systems and then ultimately to the user? I think our audience would appreciate that whole data flow and the magic behind the scenes.
Yeah, so we query hundreds of providers for every query that we see on our system. Mm-hmm. Typically for flight results, we actually prefer to query pricing engines like ITA software, which now belongs to Google, or Amadeus, because that allows us to query the real-time inventory of our partners and synthesize deep links into the results of the airlines or the travel agencies that will surface those results on their websites, but we can do that without burdening their websites. Mm-hmm. Certain airlines would actually crash if they saw the daily volume Kayak sees. So this allows us to present reliable and comprehensive results without burdening their systems. And on the hotel side, as I mentioned earlier, we do this predictive caching. We still query live multiple numbers of partners if we don't have that result in the cache. But typically, we prime our cache with results continuously so that we can serve them out of the cache when the user shows up.
And so, just briefly, and for those of us who are relatively non-technical, can you describe your technical architecture, but go gently on us?
So for storage of the data and for big data tasks, we rely on mostly Hadoop. A lot of we also rely on MySQL for other types of tasks and real-time serving of hotel data, for example. And the Kayak is built purely on Java. We use different technologies based on the presentation layer for our mobile web experience. We have transitioned into using Angular. That's a faster development platform and easier to hire for these days. For the desktop, we are using our own homegrown architecture that looks like Angular.
Can you share with us some primary technical challenges that you're working on or you face, whether it's the UI related, mobility related, storage, performance of just all of this data transitioning through multiple nodes? What are the biggest challenges that you face as a CTO?
Yeah, so performance is an ongoing challenge, right? You always can make the system faster. another challenge we are focused on is personalization. If the user, if we know that the user prefers non-stop flights for short-haul flights in Boston to New York, we don't need to pre-select the one-stop and two-stop flights for the user, especially if they are only modifying the dates. We know the context of that search. If the user has shown preference towards particular brands or types of hotels, it's important that we actually personalize for that user. So personalization in the way we choose to present the results matters both on mobile and desktop. So that's also an ongoing focus.
So what is the link? You talked about user experience being of the utmost importance, and you've said separately that user experience even trumps revenue.
It does.
Even trumps monetization.
Yes. So any idea we have at Kayak, whether that's the color or changing the color of a button, the size of a button, how much information we will show in the results page versus when the users click to see the detailed data. All these are evaluated as an A/B experiment. It could be minor things like I described, or it could be a major redesign of the website. Again, everything is evaluated as an A/B experiment. And we measure the user engagement with each part of the website, how fast they can find what they're looking for, and of course, how much money we make. And at the end of the day, we choose the best user experience, given the same user experience, we'll prefer the one that has the highest monetization for our partners and us.
How often do you change? How often does the algorithm change? Or looks like you have a highly iterative. I don't want to call it A/B testing, but I'm not sure how you make the decisions. But it sounds like it's a fairly adaptive process.
It is. So the whole website is optimized in a Darwinian way. At any given time, we run tens of experiments on the website. So the user is part of many of such experiments when they come to Kayak. And then once the statistics converge, we make a decision and we flip the winning experiment on. We release daily, sometimes multiple times a day, so these things can go on and off at any given time.
Now, Giorgos, what's the connection between the data that you have coming in and the transitions that you're making on that data and the user experience, what the user ultimately takes away?
Well, you could present this data as an Excel spreadsheet, right? Or you could present it like Kayak does. So we think that the transformation and the presentation of the data matters a lot. We also use the data that we observe to build new products. One such example is a flight price predictor. We give the users a forecast whether the cheapest price they see on our flight results page is likely to go up or down in the next 7 days. And we tell the user, we also give the user a confidence metric based on how accurate our machine learning has been in making a call in similar patterns. So it's a decision support tool. The user can actually save money in cases where there is high confidence in the prediction, and we observe the users are actually engaging with it. Other ideas that other products we actually implemented based on the data we aggregate is the hacker fares. We observe that in certain cases the user can save significant money or even travel time if you combine non-aligned airlines like a Star Alliance flight with a one-word flight. So maybe sometimes the only way to make it to travel to the West Coast and make it back for dinner is to combine a flight with Virgin America with a JetBlue one. So we show the users these results that we call hacker fares. It requires 2 separate bookings, but they can save the user significant money or a significant amount of money or end time or both.
I've used those hacker fares.
Wow.
It's an advanced user.
You're an advanced.
Good.
Michael, what was the result? Favorable, obviously.
Yeah, because you can save money and you do it in a way that's not intuitive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which I guess is Giorgos is really the point.
That is the point. Yes. Yeah. And we wouldn't be able. We were only able to do this because of the large amounts of data that we have.
So when you think of all this analytics, if you could bucketize them in descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, what's the role of predictive analytics in the Kayak product?
It's paramount. So we use predictive analytics to ensure that we have the most comprehensive and most accurate results. We actually remove results for which that we think they're no longer available, and when the user clicks through to end up on our partner's website. We rely on predictive analytics for better personalization, and as I described in the case of price forecasting and hacker fairs, we actually build products based on predictive analytics. Yeah.
So, one thing everybody wants to know is, how do you save money on booking airfare and hotel? Maybe this is a good time as any to ask you. What are your recommendations for people to save money on buying travel?
So it's different, actually. So on flights, I think if you are flexible and you can depart a day earlier or return a day later, or you are willing to use a nearby airport, occasionally you can save significantly on the ticket price. We provide tools like price alerts, where if you are flexible on the time of the year that you want to fly to a specific tourist destination, for example, you can have Kayak monitor the prices for you. But the advice is the same old advice. Look early, and when you see a price that you are willing to pay, you should book it. Don't wait. On hotels, because many hotel rates are actually fully refundable if you cancel them. When you see a price that you like, I think you can go ahead and book it in the free cancellation cases, and then if it's cheaper, you can cancel and rebook. Also, a lot of our partners are increasingly adding private rates, and Kayak is adding these rates for the registered users. So that's yet another way to save money. Yeah.
We have a question from Twitter. Zachary Jeans is wondering, what's the difference or the relationship between the user interface of the software and the overall more broad user experience? Can you link those two? And in your case, I think the data obviously plays a key role as well.
So the user interface can be thought of as the static instantiations of the user experience, but the whole user experience includes how you transition from a page to a page, the animation that you apply when the user plays with the filters, and the sorting and everything. So I would say the user experience is a more dynamic, four-dimensional aspect rather than the static view. Yeah, and the numbers, the data science is there to support basically. We capture every single click that happens on Kayak, every single tab that happens in our mobile apps, and we see what gets used in what sequence, and optimize it over time to save the user time.
I'm assuming there's a head of marketing, perhaps a CMO or head of IT, a CIO at Kayak. As a CTO, which function do you work most with, and has that changed over time?
Yeah, the role of the CIO is actually the chief architect is responsible for that, who rolls up to me. The CMO plays a key role. So does the CEO. Those are the people I interact probably the most, discussing new ideas. We want to make sure that the user interface is on brand, and probably our CEO. Our CEO is a very strong product person, so we do a lot of remote collaboration through instant messaging and video conferencing because they are located in Connecticut. But yeah, those are probably the two senior executives I interact with the most, other than my team.
And we have another question from Twitter. Arsalan Khan asks, what is the future of data and analytics going beyond user experience? Where's this all going?
Yeah, well, at Kayak is mostly focused on user experience and ensuring comprehensiveness. The future of the product at Kayak, I think, is more mobile and more international.
So tell us about mobile. Mobile plays a big role at Kayak.
It does. More than half of our users are on mobile devices. If you look at our mobile usage, more than half of the searches on flights for flights are for one-way trips, and more than half of the searches on hotels are for tonight stays or tomorrow night stays. So our users are using it as a way to solve a travel problem. Actually, they are stranded and they need to get out of there, or they need a car or hotel right away. If you ignore the next 2 days, the patterns are actually identical to desktop. So they are truly using it in that respect as a desktop replacement. So they do aspirational searches far out into the future and in very similar ways that they would do on a desktop. So we strive to make sure that in that small screen we provide as much functionality as possible. Now the reality is that increasingly our users are multi-device. They might do some aspirational searches while watching TV on the mobile device, and then they come back later to book it on the desktop. So you will see Kayak being more supportive of this use case, or the multi-device use case.
So from search to action, I'm guessing on mobile you have maybe an order of magnitude faster than on a desktop. Is that a fair statement?
It depends on the number of days out.
Okay.
It depends how immediate the need is. Yes.
Okay. So I suspect over time, your smartphone, tablet, that's going to be the first screen when it comes in terms of Kayak. I mean, you said today it's what, 50% of search comes through mobile?
50% of the users. Searches are still a bit less than that. Look, already our design is mobile first. So we have the mobile design team come up with the next iteration of the redesign of Kayak, and then the desktop team expands it for the whole of Kayak. We make sure that increasingly our desktop experience is touch optimized. So mobile is truly driving the identity of Kayak on all the devices.
So you develop personas for your users as well. So for example, one of your personas is the stranded traveler, as you were describing earlier.
Yeah, so that's where personalization comes into play. You want the results you want to show to the stranded traveler may be different than the aspirational searches, and that's ongoing work. As I said, speed and personalization never end. So those are two key priorities that we're always focused on.
Well, as an occasional stranded traveler myself, sometimes due to my own fault, like the time I booked a flight to the wrong city, I can tell you, which is not a pleasant thing. Not at all.
Isn't it a speaking engagement, Michael?
Yeah, let's not go there. But the first thing I did when I got off the flight was I opened up the Kayak app on my iPad, because I figured that's going to be the fastest way for me to figure out how the hell do I get out of this city and get to where I need to go.
Yeah, that's a common story we hear. We even hear about pilots using Kayak to find out the schedules of flights. Yeah, I'm glad we were of service there.
Well, I definitely appreciated it at the time. But we've been talking about the data part. Now let's talk about your business and your culture. you're from a size perspective and time in business, you're not really a startup, but you have the self-image of being a startup.
We do, and I think that's important for retaining the talent, but also remaining productive. If you looked at our team, about 70% of the team is actually technical staff, engineers, designers, QA, IT, data science, etc. And we maintain small teams in a very flat organization. We are very light on process, and we have meeting phobia. So we rely on having very intelligent and motivated people who can work together very efficiently in small teams. And that's, yeah, I believe that has been key in Kayak's execution.
Can you talk a little bit about meeting phobia? Is there a rule? It can't be more than 20 minutes. You have to stand up. Yeah. How do you address meeting phobia?
Yeah. So again, it's addressed in a very organic way. If somebody sends a meeting invitation that has too many people, you will get rejections because the number of people is too large. I don't think I have ever been in a meeting at Kayak that was running too long, and people just said, okay, this is. People organically say this is too long a meeting, it's not productive anymore, we cut it off. Also, in our offices, we have stand-up meeting rooms to ensure that the meetings remain short and productive.
That's great advice for all companies.
Now, what about hiring? So you're hiring lots of data scientists, you're hiring user experience people, and you don't want them just simply showing up and knocking on your door, or am I wrong about that?
No, we don't. And so we enjoy hiring people out of our network. So we sometimes hire through recruiters, but our most successful hires came through a referral. Even the ones that we hire through recruiters, they end up connected with some prior Kayak employee. And that's very important because we are light on process. We want people who can work with each other and enjoy working with each other. And our hiring process actually tries to enforce that. After a candidate goes through a number of interviews, we get together and any of the interviewers has veto power. So you have to get the thumbs up from every single person that you have met to be hired at Kayak. Also, if you map a social network of the Kayak, at least on the product side, if you map a social network of the Kayak employees, you will notice that we basically have 4 or 5 very strong clusters of people who knew each other prior to, or knew somebody who knew them prior to coming to Kayak. And so IQ is important as a filter before we invite somebody and prior success is important as a filter before we bring somebody at Kayak. But being compatible from a cultural perspective is a deal breaker. So we need people with which we can work with efficiently. Yeah.
So you hire for attitude and train for aptitude. If that makes sense. Yeah. And does that allow you to scale when you're looking for, data scientists and UI experts? I mean, from a lot of what we read today, there seems to be a shortage of highly skilled, precision talent employees.
Certainly.
But your network and your referrals help you find the right candidates.
Exactly. It's about finding the right candidates. We have dozens of positions open, but we're not going to hire just to fill up those positions. We want to hire the right people. Okay.
So how do you maintain a culture that combines the very, very highly technical discipline of data science with sensitivity and awareness of user needs that is required to build a system that has that's very responsive to the user experience? How do you find people that can marry those qualities together?
that's mostly personality, and that's what we try to find out when we interview somebody at Kayak. We don't want people who are in love with technical frameworks and they have no sensitivity about the end product that we're delivering to the users. The way we evaluate every idea and every architecture change is the A/B experiments. If you change the architecture in a way that affects the user experience, that experiment fails and we throw it out. Also, when it comes to team productivity, I have personally let go very intelligent people who were not the right cultural fit with our teams. So we iterate on the team composition like we iterate on the product.
That's incredible. So obviously a customer first, accountable culture.
I would say team first.
What's that?
I think it's team first.
Team first.
Yeah, product and then customer. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Have you found how often do you look at traditional resumes versus someone's digital footprint or social network when you're going through the recruitment process?
Yeah, in most cases we first get the traditional resume or a LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. We like to look at GitHub or a portfolio if it's a designer. We like to see prior work basically, or existing code, or we like to see what that person has done before.
Sure.
So you're obviously a very innovative company, and you're constantly doing essentially innovation experiments all the time. So tell us how you maintain the pace of innovation, and tell us the challenges of doing so and what you're doing there.
By never being happy with your execution speed. I think that ensures that you keep looking for inefficiencies, processes that you can remove, or projects that you shouldn't be working on because they don't move the needle. And I think that has to be ingrained across the culture of the team.
Do you have a formal innovation process in place?
The most formal aspect we have is the A/B experiments. We also hold a hack week where we encourage our team to come up with new ideas that, but the criterion is new ideas that we would release on production. We also have ad hoc hack week or hack month if any of our technical staff comes up with a great idea they would like to implement, depending on their prior execution history. We'll give them the ability to work on that project on their own. We also slice out teams to work on moonshot projects that are interesting travel ideas, so that we keep them undistracted from daily responsibilities. And some of those projects work, some don't. The ones who do, they end up getting released on Kayak. Our mobile product was actually a sliced out separate team that we protected from our CEO long enough to reach success.
I know how that feels. So we've had in the past several startup CEOs and startup founders on our show. What advice would you give to startup CEOs who want to come and pitch their capabilities to you as the CTO in terms of ensuring that they could survive the first 10 minutes of the meeting?
Yeah, we get a lot of young startups pitching new products, etc. It has to be solving at least to be interesting to Kayak, it has to be solving a mass consumer need. If it's a highly aspirational travel search product, or it's a very niche travel-related product, we'll probably not look at it seriously. Yeah, the mass consumer is key for us.
How do you optimize from a marketing standpoint? How do you optimize your own site to maximize traffic, maximize clicks, and maximize the revenue as well?
So there is a brand marketing aspect of things. So, but there's also we also do some online marketing, which is performance marketing, and again that's a math problem as far as we are concerned. We want to bring users who have a good user experience and they return to Kayak and in the long run, it's a positive ROI for us.
What are some of the things you do to maintain this startup-like entrepreneurial and, obviously customer user experience obsessed culture at Kayak?
Some of the things we do is that we expose every employee to customer feedback. When a user writes to Kayak, that email will be randomly routed to a Kayak employee. That has interesting benefits. If an engineer keeps seeing the same problem, they get tired of answering the same question and they just solve the problem. The constant direct contact with the customer helps you learn what you are doing wrong. Constant monitoring of usage of the website and pruning of features that are not valuable basically ensures that there is Darwinian optimization that I think keeps you focused on this on customer experience innovation.
And your role is CTO, and yet it seems that to a large extent you also have to play the guardian of the culture.
Yes, and also we like to joke that we maintain separation of church and state at Kayak. So the product team is responsible for the user experience, and then the commercial team is responsible for monetization, and there is this constant push and pull, and then the one with the strongest opinion ends up winning. The reality is not clean separation. Some of us on the product side also care about monetization, and our commercial team cares deeply about user experience as well. And I think that has worked well for Kayak.
So you said the strongest opinion wins, but clearly your guiding principle and core values, because you had mentioned user experience almost always trumps other, other factors. So at least there's a certain element of DNA in all of the employees of Kayak to ensure you're delighting your customers to the best of your ability. Is that fair?
Yes, that is very fair. It starts from the CEO down to every single employee.
So how do you capture feedback? I mean, what are the mechanisms in which, and how much feedback do you get on a daily basis? You don't need to give specific, but I'm assuming a ton.
Yeah, it's a ton. We get a lot of emails. That's mostly the way we capture feedback. But we also monitor Twitter and other social networks. Increasingly, feedback also comes from social networks. So this is the active user feedback capturing. There's also the passive one where we observe our users' behavior on the website, and then we learn from that and optimize from there.
Now, the whole concept of data and predictive analytics and machine learning is one of the big trends and fads today, and everybody's talking about it. I wonder how many people are actually doing it in an effective way. But can you offer advice to startups or to larger companies who are trying to at least get their feet wet and use these techniques in a meaningful way? Based on your experience and what you've learned, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the things that they should look out for?
Yeah, first of all, I cannot think of any viable commerce or mobile solution these days that doesn't rely on big data and constant optimization. The big challenge is to capture the right data and make sure you actually measure it correctly. So we spend a lot of time at Kayak optimizing our AB platform to actually do the right types of segmentation and give us statistically reliable data. And occasionally we trip over ourselves. We might release an experiment that doesn't capture the right type of data. So it requires constant attention and diligence and asking the right questions when you see data that don't make any sense.
I'm curious, maybe you can give some advice to other CTOs, and we've had numerous CIOs and other technology executives as previous guests. what are some conferences, or what do you read? How do you, as the person that's supposed to, responsible for championing the vision and product strategy for Kayak, what do you read? Where do you go? Who do you speak with to stay, not ahead of technology at Kayak? What are some of your sources?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we have meeting phobia, so we're actually not big fans of attending conferences.
Okay.
Personally, I read academic research in machine learning and also user experience. But mostly we are heavy users of mobile devices ourselves. We are heavy travelers ourselves. We use our competitors' products to make sure that we also that we maintain the most comprehensive results. We also use a lot of other mobile applications in our daily lives, and if we see user experience paradigms that make sense, we discuss how should we introduce this in Kayak.
Great.
So we're just about running out of time. Any final thoughts? What are the? I'm always interested. What are the kind of biggest challenges that you think about? You mentioned having the right type of data and taking the right type of measurements. Are there other things that keep you awake at night?
Yeah, is a transition to a multi-device world. As users start their searches on mobile and then they end up booking on desktop, or the other way around, we need to make sure we support that use case as well as possible. I don't think we have cracked it well yet. No, it doesn't seem that anybody else has. So I think it's a graceful transition to a multi-device world. I think that's just awake.
So when Apple introduced the new watch and you had voice-activated Uber service as a demonstration, whether it's Google Glass in the future or a watch, how do you see wearable technology where folks will want to perhaps use voice technology to search and interact with Kayak? Is that something that you see as potential growth area or usage area?
We actually experimented with voice search, but I think it was too early when we did. We'll take a wait and see approach there. We'll go where the users are.
Yeah, makes sense.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a very interesting discussion. We've been talking with Giorgos Zacharia, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Kayak, and we've been talking about data analytics and machine learning. Giorgos, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you very much. We learned a lot. Look forward to engaging with you in the future.
Yes, it's been great. I am Michael Krigsman. This has been show number 102 of CXO-Talk with my co-host Vala Afshar. And I hope everybody has a great week, and we will see you again next time.